Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing okay. So this first introduction picture here is going to be showing you how I've gone from this, which is our water palettes that are not in the best condition, with missing colours, very messy, very dirty, to the bottom brand new, ready to use colour palettes, watercolour palettes. So these are the stages that I've done, and I hope you find this useful. So we had about 18 of the damaged watercolour palettes. A lot of them were missing colours. Obviously the condition that you can see are not very useful. So what I did was I pulled all the plastic out of the tins, took them to my sink with just soap and water and an old sponge, and cleaned as much up as possible. Then I emptied all the tins and give them a good clean as well, as you can see. And then I needed to break all the old colours out of the palettes. So there's about 18 of them. So I needed to find out which ones were going to be able to be used and which paints were not very good to be restored. I did notice that majority of the colours that were missing were blue. I'm guessing it's a very popular colour in our school. So that means that I would have had to make that really light blue again straight out of powder paint. So I've cleaned up all the palettes and then we're ready to add the new paint. So I use this to begin with. It's just basically like a spice crusher, and I crushed all the paint up into a fine powder. So it's just making sure that all the big bits are all crushed, and it was easier to then add the liquid to then get it back into its normal form that it was with before. Now we did have powder paint in school as well, so a lot of the schools may have, you know, like old tubs of powder paint that's lying around. This was a great way of then adding some volume back into those palettes, especially the colours that I was missing. And then to mix it, I use gum aerobic. Now this was about £5 from our Hobbycraft here in the UK, and I've used one bottle to restore all 18 of these palettes. The white though, when I broke that up, because it's literally one of those toners that you have to use to lighten up a lot of the colours, I did notice that a lot was damaged in a way. So once it was crushed up, I was able to then to work out, is that going to be good enough to go back into the tubs? Is it going to be bright enough? Is it going to be strong enough? I did add white powder to this as well, because a lot of the actual watercolour palettes have two white to begin with, as it's a mixer. You'd use that as to help it shade and do your colour mixing. So I literally just mixed it all into a sushi. So these are sushi tubs. When I have my sushi, I just kept them, clean them out, and there was a great way to be able to store excess paint if I went over as well. So I just wanted to make sure that the consistency was right. I didn't want it to be too thick. I didn't want huge lumps, and I wanted to be able to then get that back into the palette without causing an issue. So I've used my knife here, which is literally just a paint knife, palette knife, whatever you want to use it for. I've used it to help crush down any minute bits as well. I think you can also get a glass mantle, I think it's called, which helps make paint. But initially I never thought I would need something like that, because this was doing the job. I didn't want it to be 100% perfect. It's literally going to be for the school to use. I just wanted to make sure that the paints that I'm doing are they're going to be usable again. So I did this with every single colour. I did invest in a glass, I think it's called a mantle. I will pop it in the comments. And this is me just making sure that the orange was all powdered out. So I've finished them all. I've done that same process with every single one, but I needed to test the colours. I needed to make sure that all these colours, once they were set, as you can see, they're quite hard in there, that I can still use them and they're still going to show up vibrant and bright. So this was me doing my test to make sure that those watercolours were usable. And you know what? I was over the moon at the fact that the hours I've put into this, I absolutely loved it. It was not like a chore. I really enjoyed it. I feel like I've found a new thing where I can make my own palettes now going forward. So if you're doing a pastel colour, make your own palette colours. It will be just so much easier, I think, than trying to do something off the cuff, maybe. I don't know. It depends on how you guys work. But this is great. If you've got anywhere that you work in, like a community, in a school where you've got broken palettes, do not chuck them away and just discard them. This can be done. And all I did was paid £5 from the gum aerobic, and I used a little bit of honey, so natural honey, in them as well to help with the retaining of the colour. But these turned out fantastic. Obviously I was only using a little bit of water here, so the more paint you put on the brush, the better. It will be darker. My biggest worry was the white. I wanted to make sure I was able to do that, and it would mix okay with the other colours, which I did find out at the end of this video. Yeah, you could do that. But yeah, they do take time. Do not cover so once you've done this yourself, my other tip would, once the wet paint is in the palettes, leave it out to air dry. Don't put the lids back on them. If you put the lids back on them, the liquid does not dry out because it's very water based. You want them to then dry to that chalk feeling that then are activated once the water touches them, just like any normal watercolor palette should do. So all you're doing is, as you would normally do with your watercolors, add water, it activates the color, it adds it to your brush, and there you go, you've got your colour. My only disappointment really with this palette is the violet, the purple. It looks absolutely great in the palette. I can see it looks purple. However, once I'd started to use it and paint with it, it didn't show me that colour. It kind of was like more of a really dark blue indigo type colour. It wasn't very purpley, but it still did the job. There's an extra blue, especially with the school that I work for. It looks as though the blue is the first colour to go anyway, so this is like amazing. There's an extra version of blue in there, but we all know if you mix your blue and your red, you get your purple anyway, so they do have that option to mix their colours. I was going through all these and making sure that the colours were all bright. Now, pink was a little bit more of it was very light to begin with when I did use it. You can see that it's pink, but again, add extra water and a lot more. But you can see on there that I'm not going too much with the water at all. I actually dry my brush off a little bit before I put my brush onto the colour, because I didn't want to mix and allow that colour to flow into the other side, if you know what I mean. So I just made sure that I didn't have to go around and clean the whole palette again, which I did with water and maybe a cotton bud around the edges, where when I've poured it in, it's gone over the edges. The red was fantastic, the brown and the black. I am very pleased on how these have turned out. All 18 are now looking like brand new palettes. They can now be used for the autumn term alongside the stock we've already got. And I'm so happy that I feel that saved money. It's cost me £5 for one bottle of gum aerobic. Obviously, a lot of my time has gone into this. By any means, it will take you time. So if you have got time and you enjoy doing something like this and you're happy, I would, yeah, definitely. This is definitely a task that I would enjoy doing in the future as well, especially if I can make other colours suitable for whatever project that we're going to be doing or making. I know in schools we do like a meet me, this is me portrait. So you can even do a palette which has skin tones in it. So you ain't got to worry about, you know, them having to get the mixing wrong. I love mixing colours, and this is how it's turned out. Now the white, again, adding loads of water to activate that colour and just making sure that it will show up through the colours. So all I do here is just dot it. While the colour's still wet, it will move the colours into each other. So that line was not the best way of showing you that the white works. So again, just activate the colour with water, and then I dot it onto the darker colours and the other colours just to show that it can be seen. So here you go. So I was very pleased with the fact that the white turned out exactly how I wanted it to. So now they've all been completed, I can now add the lids. Now our lids, initially we'd put on the top colours missing or do not use, as they are missing. So 9 times out of 10 when there's colours missing, that palette doesn't get used at all, it's just left. And you can see how many of these I have done. Now I didn't want to leave the colours missing on there, because when these go back into the art supply cupboard, they won't be picked up. So I need to get rid of that. The best way of getting rid of the marker pen off this metal tin was my nail varnish remover. So this is my nail varnish remover here. I literally just put a blob onto a piece of cloth or whatever you've got, and it wipes off lovely. And that is now ready to go back into the art store cupboard, ready to be used for autumn, well, for the next year really. These will last up for a year, I think, hopefully. So yeah, very pleased with how they've turned out. If you've got any questions about this, then please drop them in the comments below. I'm happy to answer any questions around what I've done to get all these palettes back to working condition. I just really can't wait to see them being used within the school during our art weeks, and really whenever really. I can't wait. So yeah, gone from really, really bad, missing colours, unable to use, to a nice brand new set, and we didn't have to spend much money at all. So thank you for watching, and I hope you like the video, and I hope it helps. Give me a thumbs up if it has, and comments. Thank you.